Hello and welcome back. This final episode in the Skin Aging Exposome is all about how your skincare routine, maybe a daily sun care routine or a lack thereof, affects your skin's aging. In particular, we look at what we ourselves call as cosmetics and skincare products that we use. The most important difference between cosmetics as an exposome factor and all the other factors is that, unlike the other agents, which are mostly about worsening aging, furthering aging, cosmetics and skincare products are something that we use voluntarily to prevent, reduce, correct, or mitigate the signs of aging. However, with cosmetics, the main factor is that they need to be safe, even as we want them to be effective. There are different stages basically to establish the safety of cosmetics that we commonly use, and these are very different depending upon the regulations in different countries. For example, the process of certification of raw materials that go into a product are quite different in certain countries like China, Japan, and Australia. They'll have their own country standards, and these are specifically applicable to each country quite differently. This is the same even for finished goods in certain countries for specific products. For example, in our country, sunscreens are available as over the counter products. But these are considered as quasi drugs in certain countries like Japan, where certain other agents like sunscreens, shaving creams, these come under quasi drugs which sit between cosmetics and drugs themselves. So countries like Australia have a classic differentiation between what they call as cosmetic sunscreens and therapeutic grade sunscreens. Given that there's a high level of skin cancer in these countries, sunscreens are mainly used for cancer prevention as a primary intention. So they have these differentiations depending on what the population needs it for. Well, some other countries like ours, we don't have like a specific India specific policy or anything, or there's no true differentiation between cosmetics and cosmeceuticals guideline wise, but we predominantly tend to follow the European guidelines for cosmetics and cosmeceuticals, and these are upgraded quite often. The market is full of newer and newer products almost every day, and the research behind cosmetics, the use of them is also growing day by day. So today's Kutti story is very, very popular. It is the story of the hare and the tortoise. I'm sure most of you have heard the story, but I want to share with you the real story, the inside stuff that actually happened, which many of you may not know about. So you know that the hare challenged the tortoise to a race and they're both racing away, right? What they forgot to mention in the story was that it was a very, 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 very hot day and the racing actually happened along a hot highway on a hill, not the kind of forest that we see in our storybooks. Now, based on reliable information, the hare is somebody who seems to have liked kind of quick fix stuff. So on his dressing table, there was just fairness creams and topical steroids that he bought off the counter at a pharmacy without a prescription. Sometimes even used tretinoin without a prescription, following random online advice. You get the drift. Here is somebody who just tried to get fair quick and be done with it. Well, the tortoise mostly had stuff that was as solid as his shell, like a good sunscreen, a daily skincare routine, some thoroughly researched anti-aging stuff. And to him, skincare was like a long-term journey. Cut to the day of the race. The hare who had been on skin bleaching agents as a way of getting fair skin was starting to get a lot of skin sensitivity and sunburn, because that's what happens when you use get fair quick creams and steroids on the skin. And that seems to be the real reason why he went into the shade of the tree. And then of course he saw the tortoise far behind and the shade looked so cool. And you know what happened. The rest is all history. But there was no such need for a sun break for the tortoise who'd been practicing good skin routines and skincare for a long period of time. So he needed no special prep for the big day except a sunscreen reapplication, which was easily done on the go as he was used to it anyway as a matter of habit. So the moral of the story is, as we all know, slow and steady definitely wins the race. Apart from slow and steady, two very important operative words that we use in skincare and cosmetics are safe and effective. In order, the first word is safety. Safety both for the person and for the planet around us. A couple of centuries ago, people even used stuff like lead, arsenic and mercury in face creams and powders in their desire for translucent skin. Oh yes, the Korean glass skin concept isn't anywhere recent. It's been there for quite some time around. And using the lead powders gave pale skin gloss and sheen, but these lead powders also damaged the skin with every single use. And unfortunately, this still sounds familiar to many of us, seeing the number of bleaching creams and bleaches that we have in the marketplace. They may make the skin fair very quickly, but the skin equally gets damaged as quickly and sometimes irreversibly. Even worse is the current but not recent habit of using prescription steroid creams for skin bleaching, quick whitening. We unfortunately have YouTube channels that teach youngsters how to use these steroid creams and these channels and videos actually stay up despite being reported in multiple dermatology organizations and associations. Going further into safety, the current cosmetic ingredient reviews, like these are like the policy papers that dictate cosmetic safety, and they are focusing not just on acute safety measures but also on long-term safety measures, like the potential for the product to bioaccumulate in the environment, the ability of the product to modulate endocrine receptors, and accordingly, the guidelines are periodically revised. So you will see upgrades to cosmetic products happening in the future. Going a little further, safety limits are a little different for products that are left on the skin compared to products that are rinsed off like shampoos or face washes. To give you an example, parabens are approved in skincare product use by the regulatory bodies. Considering the long-term safety data, they have limits, they have given limits and all of that. But generally, when you Google, you'll only see a lot of blanket objection to these agents. But if I, as a dermatologist, were to use this data and apply it to the levels that can be absorbed through the skin, I probably would be okay with parabens in rinse-off products versus those in leave-on ones, unless they can be avoided completely. So testing the efficacy of the product is usually done by both in vivo, in vitro studies apart from safety, and depending on the raw materials. And again, once the finished product is done, again under ideal conditions they test. Still, further testing will be done with the final product depending on how it is able to impact the skin positively. And then again, there'll be post-marketing surveillance. This will help identify the profile and percentage of individuals for whom the product works best. It may work less or may not work at all. These are all very important to understand because as far as skincare products go, with so many differences in skin types, exposome exposures, climate, ethnic variations, there's no one cream that suits everyone. Even a sunscreen, which is universally considered as the basic standard of care for anti-aging of the skin, doesn't come in one single universally acceptable format. But that even a single person may need to use more than one sunscreen depending on the time of the day, climates, his or her skin type, ability to easily break out, and the level of protection needed, whether it's mostly UVB coverage that's required, UVA, or both broad spectrum, whether it's for indoor use, outdoor use, whether the person would likely be in an air conditioned environment most of the time, or will they go for a run when they head outside, or they are into sports, whether they wear makeup on top of the sunscreen, do they have a bit of dusky skin that makes the sunscreen initially appear as a gray or white cast before you get used to it. Do they have facial hair which doesn't allow the sunscreen to blend in or not? Are they pregnant or nursing? So there are a number of factors, which is why there's no one sunscreen that fits all, no one face wash that will work for everyone, and definitely there exists no one fairness cream that works for everybody. You can stretch this to all the cosmetics like lipsticks, foundations, even perfumes. Not all of us like everything, and that's what makes skincare so exciting and so exasperatingly confusing for each of us. In the coming episodes, we will try to demystify each of the parts in the skincare routine, like product line by product, to understand how stuff works and to try to arrive at what might work for us. To be honest, the best way to find out if a skincare product works for us is to actually try it out in real-time conditions. But since there are a gazillion products out there, it may be smarter to understand and narrow down the choices to what may likely work for us and not, and then the task may be much easier. I'll meet you soon. We'll start with face washes, which literally is something we can't do without, and then we'll go on to build the other parts of a skincare routine. You take care, and I'll see you soon.